What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about this video by a Canadian politician named Nathaniel Erskine Smith. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's actually the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure, and Communities of Canada. I have absolutely no idea what all that means, but he's obviously someone who works in the Canadian government. And he actually made a YouTube video, which I think is awesome for like government officials and politicians to do that kind of thing. And he made a video addressed to America called Dear America, Remember Canada is Your Ally and Friend, which sounds, very nice and reassuring, honestly. I'm not exactly sure what this message is gonna be about, but I thought as an American, I should check this out. This is kind of like a message from Canada to America. A little side note before we begin, if you've been watching some of my other videos or this channel, you might have noticed I am inside of a different room. I have been stuffed inside of a closet right next to the vacuum cleaner. Well, I just thought it'd be fun to have a little change of scenery. I might be jumping between this room and the other room, and yeah, so no need to be alarmed. I'm okay. I'm just in this room now. So let's take a look. This says, Dear America, remember Canada is your ally and friend. Okay.
Dear America, I am a big fan of Jefferson, of Franklin, and of the Founding Fathers. I played baseball my whole life, not hockey. And I've got family in Michigan who I love dearly, even if they gave me a Tiger shirt for Christmas.
Okay. These I was gonna say, I like this guy, but he is a politician, so it's kind of he comes across as very likable, and he's really sweet talking me with this our founding fathers and baseball, and he's saying all the right words, but I don't know anything about this guy. But another part of me is like, I don't know if I can trust these politicians when they sound so nice. Something's wrong.
I'm joking, obviously, it's at least a playoff team. I also happen to be a Canadian member of Parliament, and I was
Yeah.
public in my concerns that a Trump presidency would not be good for Canada because it would pose a
Oh.
threat to our economy with tariffs. And I've got to admit that it's not starting out great.
Oh, this is what this is going to be. Okay. Well, yeah, he's a politician. This is going to be political video, I imagine. Yeah, and I'll just give my American perspective on it, I guess. And I'm actually really curious to hear the Canadian perspective on a lot of this stuff. Like he said, he says that, going up until this recent election where Donald Trump won, he expressed concerns for Canada. This is the kind of thing that Americans, we don't really hear about. Here in America, we are very, very, very much focused on us and how the presidency and who's elected is going to affect us, even though clearly this decision is going to have ramifications for the rest of the world and Canada. So I actually think it's good for more Americans to kind of hear stuff like this and how our decisions affect other countries.
Of course, we can still course correct, and we should, because it's actually in both of our interests. To start, there is a broader conversation worth having about tariffs, that most beautiful of words.
Yes, this was the word of the day, the week, the months leading up to the election was tariffs. I know a lot of Americans are also even confused about what this even means. A lot of us heard Donald Trump talking about tariffs. First thing, at least I did was try to run to my computer, as I do, and watch a YouTube video or Google something explaining what this means if we're going to be using tariffs and how it's going to affect other countries. And apparently, Canada is one of these countries that is going to be really affected by this, and this has been talked about more and more recently in the news now that the election is over, as well as other stuff between America and Canada you might have heard about.
In the short term, yes, they offer protection for certain industries from foreign competition, and they generate some revenue, so I get it. It's easy politics. Fact is, unfortunately, consumers often ultimately pay that higher cost. And used indiscriminately across the board, tariffs have significant and negative consequences for the economy more broadly.
This is a really difficult. It's difficult for me to even give my opinion on tariffs because it's like I don't think I should give my. Well, anyone can give their opinion and that's great, but I don't know if anyone should listen to my opinion on tariffs. His opinion on tariffs. I don't know what his education is. He's probably more educated than me, to be fair, and he's a government official, so he's probably got more credentials than I do to talk about these economic sort of monetary policies. I don't know if I need like an economist to explain this to me because I've heard tariffs are the best and I've heard they're the worst. It depends if you're the one imposing them or affected by them, or it's gonna raise our prices in the short term but help us in the long term. But he's saying it's gonna help us in the short term and it's gonna hurt us in the long term. So yeah, I don't know. I don't mean to go on some kind of crazy rant about this, but I've just heard literally every side of the whole tariff thing, and I don't know what the truth is.
Your economy, our economy too. As the tax
So he's saying it's going to hurt the American economy and the Canadian economy.
for the economy more broadly. Your economy, our economy too. As the Tax Foundation puts it, historical evidence shows tariffs raise prices and reduce available quantities of goods and services for U.S. businesses and consumers, which results in lower income, reduced employment, and lower economic output.
Okay, interesting. So he's clearly taking the side of anti-tariffs. I don't, like I said, I don't really have a informed enough opinion on this to have a side, I think. But just to, I don't know, give both sides of the argument, from what I understand, the tariffs are going to make it so goods outside of the United States are more expensive for Americans. So Americans are going to be really incentivized to purchase American-made goods and services, which when you purchase goods and services inside of your own country, that money is being spent on your country, on its economy, and it's going to stimulate our economy and keep money and services, jobs, and all that sort of thing here in America and promote American companies. That's what I've heard. That's the theory, I think. I could be wrong. That's the theory. Does that actually happen in practice? I have no idea. But according to Nathaniel, I think his name is, this is just, tariffs are just purely going to maybe be good in the short term, and in the long term, lower income, lower employment, lower economic output. If that's true, I mean, if that is the truth and that comes to pass, I don't think anybody is going to be very happy with what we voted for.
If only we'd all been paying attention in class.
Anyone raised or raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression.
And look, maybe we
Okay. Funny to get educated by like a random Ferris Bueller clip, but that's a good way to approach this. Look at how this affected us in the past, when we've invoked policies like this in the past. Did it hurt us? Did it help us? I'm not exactly sure. I should probably learn more about this, which is, I didn't think a random Canadian member of parliament would explain it to me, but why not? Great.
We just agree to disagree on tariffs as a tool to use. The better question that I am struggling to understand is, why Canada?
Yeah.
Well, President-elect Trump kicked off the tariff conversation by blaming Canada For people
South Park predicted this like 2 decades ago. Like with everything, they predicted it. Blame Canada. that's that's all the Americans marching down the street. Blame Canada. Like, well, why?
people, crime, and drugs pouring into the United States.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to rewind it so we hear him proper.
For people, crime, and drugs pouring into the United States.
Yeah, people, crime, and drugs from Canada? I gotta say, I don't know the statistics. I'm not living on the US Canadian border. I don't know what's going on. As just a typical average American, I haven't heard anything about this stuff. I never in my life have I heard about people, illegal people, drugs, and all these horrible things pouring in from Canada to the US. I've literally never heard of that before until like after this election. So I actually agree with him. Like I don't understand where all this is coming from or how much of it is true or not true, exaggeration, or I don't know. I just don't. At the end of the day, yeah, I guess I want to just make it clear that I admit I'm probably uninformed about a lot of these important topics, but I guess I just want to portray to you that I'm probably representative of most Americans on these topics. I would actually go as far as to say I try to go out of my way to learn about these things, and even still, I feel uninformed. Yeah, so take that for what you will.
He said one of his first executive orders, one of the first, would be to charge Canada with a 25% tariff on all products coming into the U.S. until such time as, I quote, drugs, in particular fentanyl and all illegal aliens, stop this invasion of our country.
Yeah, I heard about this. For most Americans, I'll just say this Canada thing Donald Trump has going on with Canada, it comes across as incredibly random. Americans have never had a problem with Canada. I mean, as far as I know. But again, I'm not on the US-Canada border where this would maybe be more of an issue. I don't know. But most Americans never thought about fentanyl, illegal aliens, and drugs coming in from Canada. We have a lot of issues and discussions around our southern border with Mexico, but we literally never talk about the US-Canada border as an issue, ever. So this is kind of random for a lot of us Americans to hear.
Now, I may not have captured all of those capital letters in just the right way, but that's the gist of it. The president-elect has gone on to complain about a massive trade imbalance with Canada and trolled our prime minister at least 3 times now about Canada.
And just to be clear, for the sake of balance, I'm not saying it's impossible. I mean, maybe I'm guessing some amount of illegal activity comes in from Canada into the United States. That's kind of inevitable with any border, I imagine. And drugs, I suppose that's true. I just don't know how serious it is, the extent. So I'm not even trying to say everything Donald Trump says is necessarily false. It's probably exaggerated, as is literally his personality is to exaggerate everything and make it go far past the truth in a lot of things and exaggerate to the point where a lot of people don't take it seriously or even listen to it. So even if there's any truth to this drugs or illegal activity, I don't know. I don't know if it's this serious or not really, or if it's totally false or totally true. I don't just want to I'm not gonna just blindly listen to this Canadian politician either. Just like I don't blindly listen to Donald Trump, even if he's gonna be our president. I'm not gonna just take everything this guy is saying as fact. I don't know. Is that just the paranoia that we live in this day and age where, I don't know, if you're not literally showing me a study or a chart or statistics and data from some kind of statistics agency or government like data agency or something, I have a really I have a hard time just taking people at their word when we're talking about really, really important things like this. But regardless, I'm trying not to rant too long on some of these things. Regardless, it is interesting and good to hear the Canadian perspective on a lot of this, even if I still don't know what's true and what's not.
Becoming a 51st state. Funny, disrespectful.
Ah, yes, the 51st. Okay, we finally got to the 51st state. Okay, here we go.
Funny, disrespectful, terrifying, take your pick. The trade deficit really should not be a reason for weaponizing tariffs against your closest ally.
Yeah.
The Bureau of Economic Analysis at the U.S. Department of Commerce, for example, they note that in 2023, U.S. exports of goods and services to Canada are about $441 billion, while imports from Canada were about $481.5.
Wow, really? Imports? Hold on. So we exported 440 billion to Canada, which is massive, and we imported just as much from. Yeah, so the exporting and the importing is roughly equal. It doesn't that that makes it seem like it's not really a one-way street. I think Donald Trump's argument is that Canada is benefiting far too much from the United States, and we are not benefiting enough from Canada. According to this, he did exactly what I asked. He pulled out the graphs. He pulled out the stats. This is from 2023. He pulled out the charts, and now, okay, good. This makes it seem like that argument is a lot of hubbubaloo.
Now, that was a trade deficit of 40.6 billion USD. Yes, it is up significantly since the new NAFTA was negotiated. And yes, it's increased from last year, but in the third...
Oh. Why don't you show us the 2024 chart? Because maybe it doesn't look as good as the 2023 chart? Okay.
quarter of 2024, that's the last data we've got, it leveled off to 9.4 billion. But what does it even mean for you? Well, first, any trade deficit really just means money coming into Canada in exchange for goods flowing into the US. No one is ripping off the United States. These are all market transactions, or, as one might describe, the art of the deal. Second, this is not a question of manufacturing jobs lost in the US due to cheap labor, improper subsidies, or unfair trade practices. Remember, this is Canada we're talking about. The trade imbalance is largely explained by crude oil exports, and the growth of the trade imbalance is similarly explained by the growth in energy exports from Canada to the US.
Okay, we're starting to get into the weeds here, which is good. I might have to listen to what he just said again. All Canadian crude oil, almost all Canadian oil actually goes here into the United States. So we get a massive, massive benefit from Canada in terms of purchasing oil. Just sort of another argument for why Canada and America are mutually beneficial to each other.
Is similarly explained by the growth in energy exports from Canada to the US. Simply put, the US economy would be less productive without this energy-related trade.
Sure.
And third, free trade has brought huge economic benefits to both of our countries. We are only 40 million people here in Canada, and we represent 14.5% of all American exports.
Wow. Yeah. And that makes sense. Canada is smaller population, and it still makes up 14.5% of our exports, as in what we sell things to. Wow. Compared to the entire planet, 14% of our stuff goes to Canada. Yeah, all of these, I like the stats and the statistics going on here, by the way. That's what I asked for. And he brought them. Very good. Yeah, all of this really does make me think more. What is up with this anti-Canada sentiment coming from Donald Trump? And it's funny because I say anti-Canada, but it's like, at the same time, he wants you guys to become part of America. But in a sense, that is anti-Canada to say, hey, just give up your country and join ours, because we're great. that is an insult. That is anti. It is saying Canada should like not exist and just be part of the United States. Yeah. So I the more I hear about this, especially from this Canadian member of parliament here, the more I think it's all very strange and nonsensical, really.
Yeah, that's all well and good, Canadian MP, but what about all that crime, those drugs and illegal aliens coming from your great white north? Well, let's turn to the data. Yes, it's limited because we only know what we catch. We can see the people and drugs intercepted by U.S. and Canadian border agents, and that's it. Well, what does that data tell us?
Yeah.
Of all the drugs intercepted coming into the U.S., less than 6% is coming from Canada.
Okay.
And the scourge that is fentanyl, and yes, it's a scourge. Well, in good Canadian fashion, I apologize sincerely for this because the Canadian border represents only 0.1% of the fentanyl intercepted by U.S. agents.
Okay, so he did it. Respect to him for coming with the data. Exactly what I was hoping for. Only 6% of drugs in our country come from Canada, and whatever this little tiny sliver here of fentanyl is from Canada. If we have a drug and fentanyl problem in the United States, it has almost virtually nothing to do with Canada. That's what I'm seeing here.
I am sorry. When it comes to migrants
sorry.
crossing our borders, more people have come to Canada from the U.S. over the last 2 years than left from Canada to the U.S.
Really?
Now, yes, fairly, those numbers have shifted over the last 2 years.
Oh.
And again, I am sorry. Because of all irregular border migration into the U.S., Canada represents, wait for it, 0.6%.
This does not surprise me whatsoever. When Americans talk about this was one of the major talking points of this election was our border and illegal immigration into the United States and our border policies, and that was all had to do with the southern border between the United States and Mexico. Literally no one was talking about Canada in the United States in regards to illegal immigration. No one was talking about that. It is essentially not a thing. Even though it is a tiny percentage of it, I guess.
And what about illegal guns? A missing element of the president-elect's concern about illegal people and goods flooding across the border.
Illegal illegal guns coming into America? We're complaining about guns coming into America. America, where it's literally couldn't be easier to get a gun. Couldn't be easier. There are guns everywhere. You can buy a gun and bring it home that same day. And I just think it's I don't know, like, this, I didn't even hear about this. This is just silly to me. Like, they're bringing all these guns into America. It's like, talk about a drop in the bucket.
Well, since January 2022, we've seen just over 1,000 seizures of weapons and ammunition coming from Canada to the U.S. In contrast, there were 70,000 firearms and prohibited weapons seized coming in the other direction.
That makes more sense to me. That makes much more sense. Canada is the one where I bet Americans are bringing guns into Canada, not Canadians bringing guns into America. What is this?
An illegal gun deficit that the president-elect will hopefully take just as seriously. But maybe the worst part of all of this, it is distraction politics. The U.S. and Canada should be working hand in hand on our collective defense and security. And yes, Canada needs to better do our part on this front. We should be working together to protect our North American supply chains, to realize the promise of critical minerals as necessary to both energy independence and a clean transition. We should be working together on so much more.
Yeah.
The long-standing relationship between Canada and the U.S. is unique in the world. It is the most important relationship our two respective countries have. And we should be building on that success, not undermining it. But look.
Yeah, I like what he's saying. I like it a lot. And I think most Americans would agree with this, honestly. I think most Americans need to take a few minutes and watch this video, really. It definitely helped me understand some of these different talking points a lot better. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like the relationship between America and Canada is such a unique, wonderful relationship. We have like the longest border in the world. That's and there's really been no issues. Like I'm sure there's been issues, but in general, it's amazing how peaceful and cooperative our two countries are, how much trade we do with each other, how much we benefit from each other. Yeah, it's really unfortunate that this whole U.S. Canada, I don't know if I want to call it a beef, but Trump definitely has a beef with Canada. That's for sure. It's unfortunate that this is even a thing.
Look, don't take it from me. American leaders have long understood the unique importance of Canada-U.S. relations. Franklin Roosevelt referred to it as an example for other nations of the world. Dwight Eisenhower rightly said that each of us is a better and stronger and more influential nation because we can rely on one another.
Yeah.
In addressing our Canadian Parliament in 1961, here's what JFK had to say.
Geography has made us neighbors. History has made us friends. Economics has made us partners. And necessity has made us allies. Those whom nature has so joined together, let no man put asunder.
And look,
Yeah. A little different from today. Compare and contrast those. Yeah. I think Canadians are even starting to think like, God, with this negative sentiment towards Canada, Canada, you guys probably feel like Canada might have to distance itself from America or not just try to become less dependent upon American goods and trade, and which is really unfortunate if that's a byproduct of all this. That's really unfortunate.
if you just don't trust a Democrat, here is President Reagan in Quebec City visiting Canada on his first official visit to kick off his second term.
In fact, we're more than friends and neighbors and allies. We are kin, who together have built the most productive relationship between any two countries in the world today.
Yeah.
This is my first trip outside the United States since I was sworn into a second term. 4 years ago, I took my first trip as president, and then, too, I came to Canada. And this is not a coincidence. For the United States, there is no more important relationship than our tie with Canada.
Wow.
In my view, to put America first is to have Canada at your side. And to put Canada first means exactly the same.
Yeah. Oh, what's this? I guess we're watching anime now. Okay. Anyway, that was a fantastic video. Hold on, I actually want to go back. We'll watch some Dragon Ball Z later, maybe.
Dear
Here we go. This was again by Nathaniel Erskine Smith. Super well spoken. Seems like a super nice guy. Seems like just the kind of person you would want in your government. So Canada's definitely lucky to have him. And I love that he went out of his way to make this message in this YouTube video. Brought some statistics, brought some of his own opinion. That's fine. And I got a lot out of this. And I think I totally agree with like his message. That like, what the hell's going on? we got to make sure that we're even disputing over things that even exist, disputing over things that are even rational or are they good for anyone? I don't know. And at the end of the day, what could be better if we're talking from an American point of view? What could be better for America than like having such a strong, valuable trade partner, economic, cultural partner, whatever you want to call it, as Canada? And exactly what he said. What could be better for Canada than having a partner in America? And yeah. This was really interesting to go a little more in depth on, and for myself to be a little more educated on, because this is definitely sort of a talking point happening in America, And a lot of Americans, myself included, don't understand exactly what's going, like the tariffs and the border with Canada and like the, yeah. So I think this was really great to take a look at. I'm glad I did. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment if you're Canadian. This all affects you, and I think the Canadian perspective has really helped me on understand a lot of this situation going on. So it'd be awesome to hear from Canadians about all this. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and learning about Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.